Hey everyone, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People and Drugs. I'm your host, as always, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have comedian Anthony Heston on the podcast. Hey Anthony, it's really great to have you with us. Thanks so much for sharing your time.
Hey Sam, it's great to be on.
Woo! Now, Anne, you're a very funny person, and of course we've got to start with our initial question. What is your comedy origin story? Were you born to a pair of great joke tellers who were shot by an evil guy, and you fell into a bat cave full of jokes? How did it all kick off?
My parents are hilariously unfunny people, I would
Really?
say. I think they both have the capacity to be funny. It is never intentional. My mum is sort of came over from Poland in the 90s and
Right.
is just a very kind of austere Polish woman
Mm,
who's incredibly practical and just did absolutely loads for us as kids and I'm very
mm,
grateful to her.
mm,
But but
mm, mm,
but but yeah, going out to I mean, occasionally I will share a joke with my mum, and
mm,
um, she never gets them. She just not at all.
mm.
So I don't think it was my parents. I don't think it was my parents who got me into. I went to a really strict Catholic school as well, so humor in
Oh,
general
right.
was really quite lacking and almost not encouraged
Really.
at my school. But when I was
Mm,
at university, things kind of broadened up, and I got
hmm.
to meet like I had friends who were involved in stand up and sketch
Yes.
and other things in the arts, and that opened me up to kind of getting involved in comedy. But I never had the confidence
No.
to do it myself. And it wasn't until a break, a quite serious breakup when I was 25.
Hmm.
Um, 7 year long relationship, really,
Wow.
really kind of big thing. And
Mm,
then all of a sudden, I had all of this free time on my hands,
right.
and I had this kind of impetus to like really get out there and kind of explore things that I'd always been interested in. And I
Mm,
got into improv comedy. I knew I wanted to do something kind of performative, and
mm,
I didn't like the idea of acting where you were just kind of reading
mm.
other people's work. And I didn't at the time I didn't like the idea of stand up because you had to actually put the work in and write the stuff. And so improv was
Mm.
kind of this thing where I was like, well, this is kind of low stakes. I can just get
Yes.
involved in this and see where it goes. And so I started my comedy journey kind of started basically when I was 26 years old
Hmm.
with with improv.
Mm.
Um, and I've just been kind of having fun with comedy um ever since really.
Brilliant.
Um,
Yeah. No, it's great. And so at 25, you still at university? You were working, and you just found somewhere locally that had an improv troupe.
I was working. I found an improv class
Oh yeah.
run by a really great company called Hoopla, who do loads of great
Mm.
stuff. And I've done much of their stuff since.
Mm.
And yeah, I did a class with them, and it was it was like a Monday night class, and so
Hmm.
improv was always my kind of like way of starting the week. And it was just so much fun, and it just was this space where you could just be kind of free and take risks and sort of see where things went. And it was just yeah, I just had the best time doing it. I did end up dating my very first improv teacher
Mm.
for a year and a bit. So
Mm.
which I think made the kind of improv um, more fun. I
Sure.
was after the very first class,
Yeah.
um, but she, she's a very funny comedy actor and performer.
Mm. Mm.
We're not together anymore, but we're still
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah. Okay.
And but I think that kind of propelled me into this world of like improv comedy
Sure.
very very quickly. I got to like travel around to improv festivals
Mm.
and meet people and see interesting shows. And then
Right.
kind of 9 months after I started improv, I got into stand up. I think
Mm.
um, I'd always been so impressed by stand ups and their ability
Right.
to kind of come with ideas. I think like I love improv. But the big distinction between improv and stand up is
Mm.
is is improv is reactive. Stand
Hmm.
up is proactive. When
Mm.
you're doing stand up, you go up on stage, you've decided what you're wearing, you've decided how you're kind of shaping your persona. You speak. Yes, it looks like a conversation, but it's not. It's a monologue,
Hmm.
really,
Hmm.
where you might occasionally have to handle some rowdy audience. But
Hmm.
it's a different beast, and it just always struck me as the most kind of impressive form of comedy. And so I got into that. I did a course with Angel
Oh yeah.
Comedy Club, which was great with Nick Ellery, who I really
Hmm.
like. And I've never looked back. I've been going
Right.
for about just under 2 years now.
Right.
Um, but I've never stopped, if that makes sense. Like
Sure.
yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah. No. Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing all the details. I mean, you know, I have a, when we talk about improv. So when I was 21, I went to Edinburgh University, and in the first year when I was supposed to be doing my master's, I was in 13 shows in the student theatre, to the detriment of my master's. And like at the time, because I'd done university, an undergrad, I had done theatre and been enjoying that and acting, and that was all I knew at that time. It didn't occur to me that one could do stand up or improv or what have you. But at the theatre, they had theatre sports and they had improv
Hmm.
going on, and I got involved in that. About the time that I was thinking, "Gosh, I'm going to have to pack this theatre stuff in so that I can do my masters." Um, and I kick myself in retrospect, a bit in the same way that I kick myself that I didn't start podcasting earlier. Is when I look back at it, I could have been doing improv instead of theatre, right? Because the thing I love being on the stage. I love the attention, right? And like exactly as you're saying, like why all of that effort I was going to learn lines, right? The
Hmm.
theatre sports folk, they were just rocking up on a Friday, having fun on stage, and that was it. So it's like, yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. And and I tried, as I've mentioned on the podcast before, stand up briefly there and really struggled and I was just so impressed by people who could do it but at the time there didn't really seem to be any of these classes around, or
Hmm.
certainly I wasn't aware of them, and I wasn't really yeah, I didn't really understand any of the process that you could go through to get there. Yeah, and yeah, it's I'm losing my thread there, which is perhaps not so important, but I do find myself in this world between what I think impresses me even more are the stand-ups who seem like stand-ups, but like Ross Noble or Rory Scovel in the US, who
Hmm.
are kind of doing improv stand-up. Um,
Yeah.
and that's the area that excites me at the moment. But
Mm.
yeah, tell me more about well, particularly well, I'd be interested to know more about the first time you tried improv, or how you were even aware that improv was a thing. I mean, I guess you sort of been exposed to the idea that improv and stand up were things that you could do through university, and like to doing the improv class, like you say, it was like lower effort than either stand up or acting. So
Yeah, I think I initially Googled like comedy class. I knew improv was a thing,
yeah.
but I think I initially Googled comedy class, and I
Mm,
sort of realized, oh, okay, there's sort of comedy acting,
mm, mm.
there's loads of stand-up courses now,
Yes.
and there was this thing called improv, and I kind of delved into it a bit more, and I was like, I think this feels like a good entry point.
Yeah.
And there's not, because I think I've never done an acting class in my
Mm,
life,
mm.
but I think they're quite an intimidating thing for people who didn't train as actors, because
Hmm.
it's sort of like you it's lots of other people who have trained and are kind of keeping the sword sharp, so to speak, rather than sort of coming at it
Yeah.
completely anew. And so it just, yeah, the acting seemed intimidating.
Yeah. I think it
Um,
helps if you're a narcissistic attention seeker like myself. Just but go on.
but yeah, and so improv just looked like um, unmitigated fun.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'd watched some UCB stuff
Mm, mm.
online where upright citizens brigades
Yes.
just yeah just producing like amazingly funny shows
Yes.
from audience suggestions, and it was just straight into the funny, and that just really sort of inspired me to just give it a go.
Yeah.
um and yeah, at that time in my life I was really looking for just uh, yeah, to sort of get to know myself a bit better. And
Mm,
comedy was always this thing I'd admired, and kind of wanted to give a go to, but just never got you never got around to it. Sometimes you put these blockers in your own
sure.
way. I look back at it now, and it's kind of like trying to imagine like uh, what your hair looked like pre-haircut, and I can't quite remember what those blockers were.
No.
I definitely didn't. Yeah, it was something I liked. It wasn't something I was going to do, but then I had this kind of new impetus to just put myself out there and try new stuff. And yeah, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, yeah, I can. It's interesting that you say that you can't sort of can't remember. I mean, I can remember being extraordinarily intimidated by stand-up, like having tried
Hmm.
it, like running a night in Edinburgh and trying to
Hmm.
MC, and like my attempts at jokes leading to total silence, and just me thinking, right, this is just some only genius people can do this. This is some, and just being so scared, and it put me
Yeah.
off doing it for 30 years.
Mm.
And in the meantime, and the improv was easier, but I always felt like I wasn't necessarily getting. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like we had a lot of fun doing improv. Like we did. I then did improv in Japan, and there was like
Hmm.
I did courses there, and we actually had some shows that I was in front of people, and I always just enjoyed being on the stage. But so when you
Hmm.
were doing these Monday night improv classes, were there also shows with audiences that you were doing, or you were just doing the classes to sort of practice the improv skills?
There were later, yeah, not the
Yeah.
very first class,
No.
but in later classes there was a show at the end, like a graduation show,
Yeah.
sort of thing. And after I did my second uh, sort of batch of classes, there's about 8 classes in a thing.
Yeah.
Um, I set up my own improv group. I
Oh
had
yeah.
completely, I was like completely enamored
Right.
with this art form and just enjoyed it so much. And so we actually I'm missing rehearsal today to do this,
Oh
but
wow.
we still rehearse every Monday night. So my improv group,
Wow.
the Pilot Improv.
Right.
You can catch us on Instagram. We've got a monthly show, but
Oh,
we improvise sitcom pilot episodes. And we've got like it's like long form narrative improv. So
wow.
we're trying to tell stories, but we've got our format is basically we improvise two sitcom pilot episodes based on audience suggestions, and then the
Mm,
audience get to vote on which one they preferred, and we do a second episode of
wow.
of that sitcom that they just seen created, and it's just boundless fun, so much fun.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes, and I remember my thread from before is yeah, the people who are teaching improv in Japan, they were doing sort of that long form and telling us things like the audience will teach you bad comedy, and there's yeah, there's a lot going on there with improv. But so was that, I mean, it's one thing to do a class,
Mm.
it's then another thing to say, right, this thing that we've been having fun with, in the privacy of our group of 5 or 10 or whatever on a Monday
Mhm.
night, we're now going to stand in front of a maybe not paying, but paying, or an audience. Did you have to steel yourself to go through that transition from just, practicing improv to actually doing it in front of an audience?
I mean, initially, yes. Like, I think that I honestly, I didn't perform in anything uh,
Yeah.
when I was younger. I mean, I think I might have been a non-speaking shepherd in
Sure.
my
Most of us
school
have. Yeah.
nativity.
Yeah.
But I was not a performative child, and so it was kind of one of the first times I was really sort of putting myself out there. That said, I had done about 6 years of kind of public speaking with a club that
Oh,
I'd been
really?
in for a while. Yeah, so I'd done a lot of public speaking, but that felt less performative. It was more.
Was that like a
Uh,
debating club or something?
no, it was Toastmasters. I don't know if you've
Oh,
heard of
I have heard of them. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's a great little club in Twickenham. Quite a big club now, actually. Yeah, and I always liked the thrill of going on, especially unprepared.
Right.
Because I don't know if your viewers, listeners, there'd be listeners on a podcast, wouldn't they?
It would be listeners.
If
Yes.
they're seeing things that might be the drugs,
Indeed. And the technology.
um, and the
And possibly
technology.
the people who are with them.
Um,
Yeah.
but they had the sort of Toastmasters format. You've got prepared speeches and that sort of thing. But they had this thing every meeting called table topics,
Oh, yeah.
uh, where somebody would prepare kind of these impromptu questions, and so somebody would kind of come on stage and they'd just be given this impromptu thing to talk about for 2 minutes. And that was always my most enjoyable
Oh,
thing because it was like free falling essentially,
yes,
and you just kind of had to work it out on the spots.
yes.
And I realized pretty quickly in that I could, and
Mhm.
I always enjoyed the valor that came with that. And so I think, yeah, I realized quite quickly with public speaking that like the improv side of it was yeah, was re what really tickled me. Um,
Brilliant. And yeah, and so I think, for many people, like, doing stand up seems like jumping out of a plane. It's like bungee jumping. It's like some, but I can see their process whereby you'd already, like you say, you've been speaking in front of people, the improv shows, then doing the Angel Comedy course.
mhm.
Ultimately, when you came to do your first stand up set, it wasn't such a, big jump to there, or was it quite
Yeah,
intimidating when you finally did stand up with just you on stage?
well, I mean, I don't, yeah. When you do when I did my very first stand-up gig, it was in front of quite possibly the most supportive room of people I've ever seen in my
Right.
life. I
Yeah.
came off stage feeling like I was quite possibly the funniest man in the country.
You are
Um,
clearly. It's
which, well, I appreciate you saying that.
uh,
Some other audiences have disagreed.
each their own. Yeah.
But the first gig was really great,
Yes.
and then you get you know you get released out onto the open mic circuit and you
Yeah.
realize very quickly like, oh, actually there are this is quite tough.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult to get people even interested in what you're saying, let
Yeah.
alone laughing, and
Yeah.
that there are other people who are incredibly good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
but yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I suppose because I'd had the sort of public speaking experience,
Yeah.
I kind of had that in the bag a little bit, but I think I was a bit polished when I started because that's what public speaking clubs kind of get you to do.
Yeah.
It's most people there kind of have corporate backgrounds and are there because they want to get better at pitching investors and that sort of
Sure.
thing. And so I think I was a little bit, uh, presentery, and I think my yeah my style has changed a lot because I think with stand up it's different. You're trying to get people to connect with you,
Hmm.
and you sort of you need to be yourself really to do that. People don't want to be sold to.
Yes. I,
Um,
I think there's something about within stand up you can kind of find your truth, and that
mm,
is very appealing. I mean, it certainly seems to me though that having done this kind of the table topics, which makes me think of the sort of old rope stand up where people have to kind of like, was it so old? That's a different thing actually. There's some other kind of stand up thing where that people are given and they have to do improv stand up, doing the
mm,
improv and doing it in front of people. Those are all skills that when it came to doing stand up, that serve you in good stead. And yes,
mm,
these comedy courses, I think the sentiment, when I did the comedy course that got me back into stand up three and a half years ago, absolutely, I had exactly the same experience of the first gig being, you know, very, very supportive and great fun and lots of
mm,
laughs. And then you think, right, to go straight out to do an open mic gig. Although I was still quite intimidated about going out from that into the open mic thing. But I did the same set that I did at the comedy course and got almost nothing. I mean, I would say almost nothing for that 5 minutes.
mm.
Yes, but and then so I mean, I'm excited that you're continuing to do. So, like some people would, they kind of graduate from it, but once they start doing stand up, they drop the improv and they're just doing stand up as much as they can. But it sounds like you're continuing to do both and you're enjoying both, which is great.
Yeah, well, if when as and when the BBC come and ask me to write a sitcom, I want to be ready to
Right.
pick that up. So yeah, jokingly, but like a small part of me does
Ah, okay.
like the idea that if an acting opportunity came up, that the improv is sharpening that skill set.
Right. Well, and
So to
indeed,
speak.
I mean, like I love the idea, the concept that you have for the improv that you're doing, which
Mm.
is sitcom pilot episodes. So you will, over the course of a certain number of years, basically iterate through every conceivable possible thing, and you'll be able to, when it's like, we need a sitcom that's a bit like it. Well, you'll be able to like just sort of give them exactly what they need, which is which is
Exactly.
which is which is
Exactly.
fantastic. But coming back to the thing that you were saying about being yourself, is I think that that's the thing I find with, and I've done bits and pieces of improv. There's Brooke Herr, who we had on the podcast.
Mhm.
He used to be running stand up shows in Croydon, and that they would end with a like, all like five stand-ups would then take part in a 10-20 minute improv at the end. And I've done a number of
Mhm.
improvs, which could be fun, but they're all kind of pretend. And I think, if for me at the moment, if I'm given the choice, I would say, let me be on stage just talking about me and my experience and
Mm.
so on. Like I'm kind of there's something where I'm kind of exploring who I am and seeing if I can connect to the audience or not that I maybe don't get to do in improv. So yeah, I'm kind of like I've swung like although the kind of stand up that I'm doing, a lot of it is although I'm bringing some things to the stage, I'm being very improv-y in a perhaps
Yes.
some people
Yeah.
would look at what I'm doing and say, well, that's not proper stand up at all. It's not
Your
writing.
your stand up is very in the room, and I like that about you
Thanks.
because you're. It's very clear that you're listening to the audience, and you almost are engaging in that back and forth exchange, and I think
Right.
that's really fun, and I think audiences like that because they get a few moments where it's like, oh, that was just for us. You couldn't have thought of that ahead of time. Although once you've emceed a lot, you realize actually you can pull those things out of the bag.
Yes, I think.
Sometimes
Well,
a
and
bit.
that's what I hear about Ross Noble is that he spent like 30 years or 20 years like just emceeing the entire time to the point where that and it becomes you've got like a sort of a toolkit that you can use
Mm.
in all those situations. I'm definitely trying very hard to listen to the audience. I'm not a very good listener. That's something I'm it's great to hear that I'm achieving some of that. I think what's ironic is it's so often, however great the material is,
Mm.
well, this is maybe at our level and other people's level, it seems like very often the thing that is specific to the room is the thing that gets the biggest laugh.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
leads me to kind of say, why bother with all of this effort of like, polishing and polishing and polishing and polishing material and having to say it in exactly the right way? Why not just try and do as much stuff in there? I don't know if you know Ben van der Veen. I'm
I do. I like him a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, because he teaches this
great
like
stand-up.
improv for MC, and
Yeah, I
the
did
way
it a
he
while
does,
ago.
yeah, I've done those too. The great classes, and he seems to use MCing almost as a way to do a kind of like an improv. He generates, a
Yeah,
story with characters that he's imbued, audience
yeah.
members as.
I love his approach to crowd work because it goes far beyond the what do you do for a living?
Yeah,
Which it can be a useful question to ask, and I use it often.
yeah, me too.
But um, it's better if you just go up and you just take a look at the audience and you just catch someone's eye and you've got a sense of who this person is and you can kind of give them all of that and paint this world of who they might be
Right, right. Yes, imbue
um
them with a character and a
and
yeah,
and
and
then
he's
get into
go
the
on.
questions, and yeah, and then do the questions as well, but then you've already given them this character, so you've already set up a load of other jokes effectively,
Yes,
and the audience know that you've just done it on the spot as well. So I feel like the reaction to improvise to clearly improvise material like that
yes.
is very different to what it is to prepared material, where I think there's a higher expectation, as there should be, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because I've tried to follow, having done Ben's courses, I tried to do more of that kind of like it was more like world building, but I find myself, like it's almost it's difficult to sustain. I lose interest in the building of that world, and I want to go on and talk to the next audience, and I'm just always new thing, new thing, new thing, new thing, new thing. It's
Oh, my favorite thing is relationships in the
okay,
audience, finding
yeah,
out how a couple got together or how long they've been together or
sure,
comparing couples in the room can be really fun.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I think especially when you ask people questions about their relationship and how they got together, there's usually so much kind of interesting stuff in there.
yeah.
And they're often kind of voicing it out loud for the first time, or so it seems, and that can just be such a joy for an audience to see. And it's yeah,
Absolutely. Yes, I've seen that done really, really well. Um, it's it's odd though. I've had this thought recently about there's a kind of like stage memory. Like
mhm,
you can go up with all sorts of intentions, whether it's stand up or MC or what have you,
mhm.
but what you actually do in the moment is not predictable, or at least I find. Do you know what I mean?
I 100% agree. I think you have to play the room.
Mm,
and sometimes you go on and the room are on your side and it's nice and you can stick to the material you planned and it's
Yeah.
that's good and it goes well. Sometimes you go in and nothing and you need to adapt. And I um, maybe somewhat masochistically enjoy doing really tough rooms because
Mm.
it's the challenge of like, oh well, can you make us laugh? Go on, try. And I like that challenge. I like
Mm.
going off script and breaking it and yeah, just trying to my personal view on comedy is if you're a comedian, it's your job to make them laugh.
Oh, absolutely.
So find a way to do it. Don't just be like, oh well, the material's not working, so I'm going to give them more material that is on the same topic. Like, no, you change that. I think for me, that's part of the joy of live performance. If it was the same every night, I think I'd get bored quite quickly.
Absolutely. Yes. It's Yeah, and well, that's I mean that's fantastic. I think if you enjoy challenging gigs, I mean, and challenging gigs are they are the resistance changing,
Mm,
the resistance training, and it's I think you're developing comedy muscles there, which is
mm,
fantastic. I mean, I guess for myself, I would just like selfishly love to have really full rooms with amazing audiences who just would laugh at my every like gesture and
mm.
utterance. Yeah, the I was. I certainly agree with and some people will like go up and do material and then it doesn't work and they'll do more material and they'll say, well, the audience wasn't any good. But I agree with you completely. Like you as the comedian, you need to find a way. The thing I was saying about stage memory is it's almost, I mean, and I almost purposely go up with a minimal script and like
Mm,
jump around. I mean, I feel like I'm not at the level where like well, I imagine that there are people at a level where they've got so many different bits of material that they've done over the years
mm,
that
mm,
they are in real time they're able to sense, okay, these two jokes didn't really go, okay, I'm going to move over to this other slightly different kind of material, and they're able to do that and at the moment for me, like I will each individual joke will be told in a different way, and I'm usually taking up seven or eight kind of
mm,
thoughts that will do this, that, and the other. But it's difficult, and I'll absolutely get distracted by things in the room and talking to
mm,
people or what have you. But it's tricky to go and I find it tricky to adapt. But what I mean by the sort of stage memory is that I might go up, for example, I'll be emceeing at Sunset on Tuesday, and you've mentioned, oh, you should talk to couples. I mean, like last week, there was a couple in the front row that I was talking to, but I got into both their jobs, and I didn't get into their coupleness.
mm,
And I might, for example, now after you said it, have the intention to get into their coupleness of a couple on
mm,
Tuesday. But what I find is, either I have attention, I have the intention to say do that, or I might say, oh, I'm trying to do a bit more world building like Ben. Like I like somehow in the moment when the audience is looking at you, intentions they could very easily evaporate, and you're just
Oh,
carried along.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face,
There you
right?
go.
It's
Brilliant.
no, it's exactly that. I just on the topic of comics with loads and loads of material. There's a great American comic called J.F. Harris, who I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
gets enough attention. Do you
I
know?
don't know
Have
that
you
I've
heard
heard
of
of
his
him.
stuff?
Yeah.
He's
JF.
absolutely brilliant. But he'll come and do the big clubs in London every now and then.
Mm,
I think he used to write for Bill Burr. He was definitely involved with writing something for Bill Burr. I'm not quite
sure.
sure what it was. I don't want to slander Bill Burr. I'm sure he's
Well, I mean,
got strong lawyers if
the
he didn't do
big,
that.
yeah, but the big famous people can afford to pay people to help them write things
But but
themselves.
I'm not sure if he was a writer for Bill Burr or if it was like
But
something
anyway,
tangential. But anyway,
sure.
brilliant comic. But he'll um I've only seen him once live. I saw him live in Paris,
Oh
and he
yeah.
went on to one of the deadest, quite a busy room, but one of the deadest rooms I've
Mm,
seen. This
mm,
English speaking uh, uh, stand-up night in Paris,
yes.
and he just had this ability to just turn the room
Yes.
immediately.
Right.
Just making a joke about how clearly everybody just wanted to go home and
Yeah.
this was his dream, so he was going to push on. But he just,
Mm,
I'm not doing it
yeah.
justice, but he did such a brilliant job. But he does this really interesting thing in his sets, or at least, I mean, I don't know if he does it all the time, but
Mm,
he'll say, "Fuck it, you guys seem cool. What do you want to hear jokes about?" And because
right.
he's got so much material,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
finds ways of linking it all together. And he
Yes.
must have been he must have been going 15, 20 years, but there's just so much content there that he'll just do that. And
Yes.
he's got the jokes there, right? So it's about,
Right.
he'll find ways of getting into the
Yeah.
material.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like it's not one-liners, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's and yeah, he definitely gets rewarded more for that because it's like, wow, okay, he just pulled that rabbit out the hat.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's worth checking out his stuff on Instagram.
No, no, absolutely. I'm always looking for more, always looking for more comedians to check out. Yes, and you were just saying there about the putting out. What I'm as I go on, I'm starting to have like there's some little jokes that are like related to my personality that I don't even think about using or need to prepare for.
Mhm.
I mean, by comparison with someone like Jeff Harris, I think there's a handful of them, but I like to think if one just keeps on going, that that will grow and one will get to that
Mhm.
sort of state so that you can basically be switching backwards and forwards between just improvised things and reacting to the moment, and then you've just got this big like arsenal of things that you can go to.
Yeah.
But yes, but tell me about the last. So only 2 years. You're running your own night. What are the highs and lows of the last 2 years? Would you say?
Ooh, it's a great question. I think the high has probably got to be the Brighton Fringe run that we've just
Yeah, they
done.
just did
So, um,
brilliant.
my good friend Sarah Conrad and I took a split bill show to Brighton.
Mm,
We performed every Saturday in May,
mm,
and it was just such a delight to, uh, yeah, to spend several months writing that first 20-minute show, and then to
mm,
we did two work in progress shows before
mm,
Brighton. But yeah,
mm,
by the time we got to Brighton, it was just like I felt like I really kind of knew what the show was about,
mm,
and it had a clear structure and a clear narrative. And
mm.
then the Brighton audiences were just fantastic.
Wonderful,
Yeah, so pleased to be there, and we managed to sell out every show. It was
wonderful.
only a small kind of 25 seater room, but
Yeah,
it was I just had the best time. So that's probably the high. The low, I'm quite forgetful when it comes to the lows.
that sounds like a skill. Yeah,
don't carry
great.
that with me all of that much. I think the weird thing in stand up, I think, is that in order to progress, you need to become quite aware of your own inadequacies.
Okay.
And where, I think like the material I'm doing now is so much better than the material I was doing, 6 months ago or 9 months ago.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think the lows come periodically where you're like, this isn't good enough to get me to where I'd like to get to. Like
Right.
this is fine for, you know, the 10-minute spots I'm getting now, but it's
Yeah.
not, this is not gonna kind of get me to hour-long shows and the bigger things that I want to be doing. And so yeah, I think those come periodically. But like I can't think of a really sort of tragic low point, to be honest.
No, well, that's absolutely fine. I guess we'll talk more about the Brighton thing. It's interesting to hear about your goals. Yeah, I'm just it's we've already touched on, that you go from that very first supportive show from the comedy class, and then you're, early on, I think in open mics, one can have, some challenging experiences, but absolutely, put it behind you and onwards and upwards, and you're sticking at it. I mean, we had this is the thing. We talk about listening. I am getting terrible with remembering the names of the people who come on the podcast. It's really embarrassing. We had a lovely gentleman who's taken an hour show, gentleman, which is a theologist, and I'm gonna have to go and apologize if I'm not remembering it. But so he had, and then he talked about in his episode, he had an experience in an open mic that meant that he sort of like had a hiatus for 9 months because he just, and so in that sense, one can have negative experiences that sort of knock you off the wagon and then you have to get back on. But you've been going great guns, which is fantastic,
I
and
think
running.
it really helps to have gigs booked in, and especially to run a
Yeah.
gig,
Yes.
because it's like um, however bad the next gig is, I'm never, more than a few days away from the next one. So,
Oh,
um,
absolutely. Yeah, that seems to be good.
yeah,
And you
I
run a
think,
great show in
oh, I
Isleworth,
appreciate that.
which is
Thank you.
it's the Comedy Central,
The Comedy Centre.
the Comedy Centre, right?
Um,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
miracle that wasn't taken, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Which is great fun. Nice room, big stage, wireless mic. I like that. Yeah. So before we go back to the Brighton Fringe, just you were talking about like wanting to do hour shows, fantastic, and other things that you want to achieve. Where is the sky the limit? Where do you want to take it to?
you know what? It's. I did this. You must have heard of Simon Sinek.
And maybe,
This
like I
is
said, we've
kind of
already
one of these.
demonstrated
It's
that I
one of
can't
these
remember people's names. But
business
so good.
guru
Oh yeah,
guys. I reckon if you saw a picture, you'd
probably. Oh
recognize him.
yeah,
But he's got this thing called the golden circle, where and it's
oh
like
yeah,
um, in the middle of the circle is kind of your why. In the outer rim of the circle is how, and then in the
yeah.
final circle is what. And he kind of points out that, as people are kind of going through life, most people just land on the what and they decide that, okay, that's the thing I'm going to be working on. And his kind of thesis is that if you start from the why and work through to the how and then through to the what, then everything
Okay,
becomes a lot easier. So um,
right.
a while ago, I did this exercise, kind of breaking down like why do I do comedy at all? What do I enjoy about it?
Yes.
And the big thing for me is just making people laugh. Like I just find that the most kind of enjoyable thing. If I'm making people laugh, I'm not thinking about anything else. And
Mm,
what I love about stand up, much more than improv, is the many different ways stand-ups have come up with for making people laugh. Like
mm,
every my favorite comic is Bo Burnham, and
mm,
every special he releases, I feel like he reinvents the art form. He just finds
mm.
new and exciting ways of kind of connecting with an audience and getting them engaged. And so for me, it's just, yeah, I just want to make people laugh in different ways. But I think right now, the emphasis is definitely on longer shows, on
Right.
building towards a solo show. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
but yeah, that's I think I find that kind of more exciting and creatively fulfilling um, than perhaps some other very legitimate goals that other stand-ups have
Yeah, no,
um,
absolutely.
circuit.
Absolutely. The and you make it, I think I love your turn of phrase with it sounds noble and outgoing. I mean, when I look at for me, the why is it's like what I'm a, you know, narcissistic attention seeker, and there's just yeah, like I love being on stage and I love people laughing, and but
Mm,
I guess like it's nice to spin it as altruistically, like oh yeah, I love making other people happy, but ultimately the thing for like what I like is the sensation that I have in my brain. I mean, I don't want to think
mm.
that the people in the room are like secretly crying inside or that they're like having an
Yeah,
awful
yeah.
time. I want them to have a good time, but there's the juice that's happening in my brain when
Mm.
I'm on, and even when I'm watching myself back on video, which is I don't know what we'll come on to. But tell us more about the Bride and Fringe show. That is the run finished now? It's because it is.
The run's finished. Yeah, we did 5 shows across May. We've got another two coming up in July. Tickets are on sale for one.
Oh, great. We'll get this
But
link in the show notes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's just been a great experience doing the split bill because I think sustaining an audience's attention for 20 minutes is a very different beast to a
Mm,
five or a 10-minute set, which are pretty much the standards across the
mm,
circuit. Um, it's like for 5 minutes you need to be funny. For 10 minutes you need to be funny. For 20 you've got to be pretty interesting. You know,
right.
you got to have something to say. You've got to be going through something or have gone through something, I
Right. Right.
think.
You need to have a bit more. Yeah. And
Yeah,
and tell us about the show. I mean, some of our listeners might want to come and see it. What are they to expect if they come to see the show? What's it all about?
I mean, my half of the show. I don't want to misrepresent Sarah, but I think my half of the show was very much kind of inspired or the emphasis all came from the fact that like I'm massively scared of the idea that anybody would see me as boring. Um,
Okay.
and that's the thing I'm always trying to mask. But in many ways,
Oh,
a series of things have happened throughout my life to shape me into quite a sort of regular, boring looking guy. I went
Oh
to a
God.
strict Catholic school. I worked in
Mm.
politics for a while. I'm now like my day job is as a civil servant.
Right.
I have. There are many kind of boring bits of my life.
Mm.
I hate that. I hate that so much. It's my biggest insecurity, and so I kind of uh, I try to put that on stage and get into kind of how that all came about um, and then get into some of the sort of slightly crazier things I have done in the pursuit of trying to not be boring,
Right, right. I
essentially.
mean,
Which I won't spoil anything for anyone who comes to see it, but it's for me, that's the journey that I'm trying to get across in the show.
oh yeah, brilliant. Well, and it's really interesting to hear you say that because, you know, running your night and me seeing you come across, as a charismatic, fun guy, and the last adjective I used to describe you is boring. But like as you
Oh
said,
well, that means a lot.
there's obviously a background there, but that's a journey that you've gone through,
Sure.
like which you're exploring in the show, which is fantastic. Yeah. And well, what's the show? What's the show title?
The show is called 10 Things You Shouldn't Do. Um, Twist on the classic rom-com
Right. Brilliant.
title.
Yeah, yeah.
10 things I hate about you. But yeah, and it yeah, there's plenty of stuff in the show that I shouldn't have done. And but it's been really fun because Sarah's got quite a different show. Um
Oh,
Also
okay.
talking about things that she shouldn't have done. So that very much kind of links it. But
Okay,
we've
so
also
there's a theme linking it, but
there's
it's
a there's definitely a theme linking it, and
right,
we've written a few bits into the show to make it feel like a
right,
coherent show. Because
right. Yeah,
after the first few runs, that was one of the bits of audience feedback we got
right.
from kind of people who had seen it who were like, well, what about the sort of 10 things? What were the 10 things?
Yeah, right.
So we've written a few things into it to make it feel like an experience,
Brilliant.
which has been great fun. Like building shows is something I've got a lot of joy out of, which I didn't. I kind of before actually doing it, I didn't know that, you know. Um,
Right. Yeah. Oh no. Well, I mean, it's great. I mean, in the background, I'm bringing up my episode list. Is of course Ollie Riordan, who we had on the podcast, the theologist, and he had that little break and has now come back to stand up. I mean, it's so great to hear how much you're enjoying. You enjoyed the Fringe run, Brighton Fringe run. Matt Lowe's we had on the
mhm,
podcast, and he had I think he did like a sort of a maybe it was last year did a 5 days in a row and had highs and lows at
mhm,
the Brighton Fringe, and we just had Mariah Bowden on, and she, had a sold out run with her split bill
mhm.
and I'm forgetting the
With
partner. Damn.
Molly Marley.
Molly. Yes,
Yeah.
of course, of course. Yeah, so that I mean that's amazing. I mean, my brunch show was not sold out, but yeah, any tips on how you filled that room? How is it the first time you've been to Brighton Fringe? Is that right?
It's the first time I've taken a show. Yeah.
Right, right, and yeah.
I
So what do you think went into the success that you had?
I think do you know what? I think the poster is really important.
Hmm.
I think your poster needs to uh, make it seem like people are going to be able to come and have a really fun hour.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, Sarah has worked in marketing for
Mm,
2 decades. Has you know, designed adverts essentially
yes. Yes.
for some very large companies,
Mm.
and some very creative companies.
Yeah.
Um, and I think she's got a good eye for this stuff,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
so I think that helped a lot. And also I think because we kind of had this rom-com theme going on,
Yes.
um, it it our kind of natural audience was couples, and the
Right.
big
Right.
advantage of couples from a kind of commercial point of view is that there are two of them. So
Yeah. Okay.
every time you get somebody interested, you get your two. So I think that kind of made life uh,
Brilliant.
easier as well. But yeah, I think just like think about the audience.
Yeah.
What's going to make you know the person down the street turn their heads and think, oh yeah, okay,
Give that a go.
I'll give that a go with these two comedians I've never heard of.
Indeed.
So yeah, I think yeah, more of that is probably helpful.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And I when I was in Brighton, I was walking down to the seafront to catch a glimpse of the sea, and I saw. I think I might have sent you a
Yeah,
photo.
very, very possibly.
It was
Yeah.
it was very well prominently placed in like a completely unrelated to the Fringe. It was like
Mhm.
in a different venue. I mean, I had sent posters to the venue,
Mhm.
but I think none of mine had been put up.
Oh,
Um,
it's a shame.
so I think yeah, that might have been part of my issue. I mean, so we're talking about it, and it'll slide into the issue on technology. My show, which is called Sam Joseph's Extended Comedy Booby Trap, which is not meant to be the best title, is this thing I do with this virtual reality, and I did actually get, I mean, I wasn't, so I ended up doing kind of like three shows in one day, and
Mhm.
I wasn't really expecting the first one to get anybody, but actually there were people who paid, and two people who came to that one, and then that I'd only really sort of been seeing that as a technical rehearsal, and I was working out the kinks with, like I was projecting from the virtual reality world onto a screen behind me, and doing it for the first time, like from the perspective of my view, and it was basically gave people motion sickness on the first one, so that was
Mhm.
unfortunate. But then I had across town, I had one of these what are they called, showcase shows. But
Mhm.
like unlike in Leicester, where I'd had a much, the showcase show had been in the same venue as my show. It was across town, and I don't really didn't bring any audience there. And then people, I had like sort of four audience in the, presuming Eds, who'd paid and I think had seen my thing and thought, oh, well, it might be interesting. We'll take a punt on that. And I had then like 12 people in the virtual reality world as well as audience. So this is the kind of the thing I'm covering by doing this crazy virtual reality thing is even if there's not many people in the room, in the physical room, I've got audience from all around the world in the virtual thing, and then the
Yeah.
technology can distract people from the fact that I haven't prepared the material very well.
Mm.
But did you charge for your show?
We did. We charged a fiver. We
Okay, yeah,
thought that uh, for our sh we wanted to keep the drunks out essentially because
sure,
we were
right.
on at 9:15 every Saturday,
Mm.
and we thought, well, let's and also I think when you're in Edinburgh doing the bucket is fine. People know, just kind of know to expect it.
Yeah,
But I felt like for Brighton we could just charge a fiver, and that would, yeah,
yeah,
that'd be better. That would work better. And it was nice. It meant that we could just kind of thank people for coming at the end rather than beg them for cash,
yes.
which is always a little uncomfortable when you're sat in the audience and you're not expecting it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really interesting because I think Mariah and Molly they made theirs free and did do the bucket, and that worked well for them. And but yeah, I mean I think yeah you've done it on the Saturday as well. Mine was on the Sunday. It was maybe not. It was best for my schedule, but not necessarily for other people's schedule.
Mm.
But it's really interesting, particularly speaking to Mariah, speaking to yourself, people having successful shows. And this is the first year that I've done festivals myself, and I'm now like sort of
Mhm.
working out how to do it going forward. But so had you and Sarah both gone down to Brighton in advance and sort of gone round putting up posters in different, like it feels like there was a fair amount of prep work there to get the word out.
Um, I have a friend who lives in Brighton who I managed
Nice,
to pass some posters
brilliant,
onto in London, and she kindly put them up. So
nice.
yeah, we didn't actually go down and do it ourselves, but
But no,
uh,
you found a way.
yeah, we found a way.
You found a way. And I mean, like, well, I think what you're saying about the audience and about who it's being pitched to. I mean, the person who was on before me at Presuming Eds was Alex Love with his How to Win a Pub Quiz, and he had a
Mm,
completely packed out room, and I think part of it is people, the advertising, they know what they're getting, and people love pub quizzes
mm.
and so on. Like you say, people love rom-coms and so on. No, fantastic. Well, that's wonderful and exciting that you're doing more. Will you then take that show on to Edinburgh even, or that's?
We're taking a different show to Edinburgh.
Oh wow.
Um, so we're taking a compilation show because I think the thing with Edinburgh is you have to do the admin so far in
Yeah,
advance,
right.
and we just, we didn't know that the show was kind of going to come together the way it has.
Sure.
And so I think we sort of took the low risk option of, well, we'll apply for a comp show. And so
Yeah.
we're running a different show called Comedy Through the Ages, where we're going to
Right.
have all the stand-ups have to be from different decades in their life.
Oh
And
wow.
we want to get some really young stand-ups on
Right.
and some really old stand-ups
Well, if you need
on,
someone in
and
their
just,
50s.
well, yeah. Well, if
Although,
you're in Edinburgh, let us know.
yeah, no, unfortunately, I'm in Japan in the summer this year. But another. But will it be the first time you've been to Edinburgh this year as a performer?
I've been as a punter, uh, 2 years running. Last year I picked up some spots, so
Mm,
I
mm.
did perform. But it'll be the first time taking up a show, and
Wow.
yeah, super excited for it.
Brilliant stuff.
Um,
Brilliant stuff. I'm really excited. Well, I'm also jealous because you're like you're young, you're good looking, you're funny. You're at you could accelerate off in a way that I'm unlikely to now that I've started so late. But it's
you've got
fascinating
a
hearing about
lot
it.
going for you, Sam. You shouldn't talk yourself
The
down.
flattery will get you absolutely everywhere. Fantastic. And I think, yeah, I'm not, as I say to people now, there is documented evidence. I have video of people laughing at things I have said occasionally. It's not,
I always enjoy your sets. I
thank you
really
so
do.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, it's great fun. And we love having you come perform at Sunset. And I love coming to Comedy Centre as well. But so tell me about, I'm obviously a big tech head. Not everybody is. Technology, as we often say on the podcast, pencil and paper is a kind of technology. Even a
Mhm.
technique, a memorization technique like the memory palace, or using an AI or whatever it happens to be. But it is, technology of one kind or another. How does it affect your process, your comedy, your life? Is it a big part of what's going on at the moment?
I think it's becoming a bigger part.
Oh,
I've
really?
just used ChatGPT to generate the images for
Okay.
our our Fringe
Mm-hmm.
picture that will
Mm-hmm.
go up on the Fringe website. And it is I'm so amazed by what you can do with ChatGPT
Right.
image wise. I've got friends who have taken pictures of their rooms that they're trying to move out of and asked it to declutter
Oh,
the
really?
rooms to give a sense of what it would look like, and it's really impressive.
Yes.
ChatGPT has kind of worked its way into my kind of
Mm.
daily life
Right.
as a good synopsis of kind of what's on Reddit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with various things that I kind of look up randomly. But yeah, so ChatGPT I use a lot. I think for comedy, most of the time ideas get stored in a Google Notes.
Yeah.
It just Google Notes just quickly get it in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
useful to have it in there, knowing that I can just search for a keyword
Yeah. I do the
and
same.
find
Yeah.
stuff in there. So I'm going to the States later this year.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Sort of moving out to Chicago for a bit to sort of play around on the comedy scene out there.
Oh, wow.
And
Cool.
but I'm very aware that for the first time in my life, I'm going to be the other. Um, and so I'm jotting down all of these ideas about US jokes that
Mm-hmm.
I could make as a British person. So
Mm-hmm.
so I like to have a kind of a few and like for the comedy through the ages show, I've got another sort of Google Notes just where I'm just kind of plodding in ideas so that
Yes.
when it comes round to okay, now I actually need to do the thing, I've already got 50 ideas for
Brilliant.
jokes that I can make. So yeah, Google Notes is my big friend, and then Google Docs for the
Mm-hmm.
actual kind of crafting process and getting stuff um, into sharper shape.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I try to do one. I have like a work in progress doc each month, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just where new material gets developed,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. And then pen and paper. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a big fan of morning pages.
Okay.
Don't always do them in the morning, but I
Mm-hmm.
try to do them kind of from when I can be creative in the day.
Sure.
And I just find that super useful for uh, getting to like the stuff in life that you're like grappling with.
Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
my, I love raw, honest, truthful comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and which is kind of like yeah the sort of stuff about feeling like I'm boring. That you only work that stuff out, I think, through doing the morning pages stuff and being like, oh,
Right.
okay, this is
Mm-hmm.
this is the thing that keeps coming up. And so I think it's a great way of seeing what your mind is preoccupied with.
Right.
um yeah
Yeah,
so those are
absolutely.
technology wise, I think those are the main things
Yeah. And
I
when you're saying
use.
ChatGPT is sort of daily, that's just in terms of like not to do with coming up with jokes so much, but just like, oh, I need to like you said, do,
I,
like handy things to just like, oh, I need to.
I mean, look, I think most comedians have probably played around with ChatGPT to see if it can write some jokes, and
Yeah.
it's pretty bad at
Mhm.
writing jokes. But I think if you haven't
Oh,
done that
right.
as a comedian, you're a thoroughly uncurious person, and
Right.
uh, I think that's odd. But no, it's not great for jokes. It's more. just good for research. What have I?
Yeah.
I look on my phone. What have I been looking up recently? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I was, I think absolutely for the, oh, what have I just done there? Oh, accidentally paused one of the recordings, which is, no, I think it's all right. Yeah. Um, yeah, what was I just asking? I was just asking ChatGPT. Oh yeah, positive adjectives that start with D, things like that is a, you know, I've got also sending me a daily comedy trends summary, like
Uh-huh.
telling me that apparently French scientists are teaching parrots to swear in perfect English. Um, just like I've got it doing like a overview of like the meme sphere of like apparently Prince Harry's AI audio diary accidentally goes public. I read. Uh,
Last week, I asked ChatGPT uh, what people think about liking your own posts on Instagram.
oh, okay. Oh, well,
Well,
what?
because I'm trying to do the whole social media thing and put reels up every week,
Yeah, right, right.
to sort of broaden outreach and get an audience and that sort of
Yes.
thing. And it's yeah, with all of these things, it's better to start sooner rather than later. So
Mm.
I was kind of wondering, does does it affect the algorithm? And ChatGPT said, yeah, it probably doesn't help you in any way because Instagram
No,
obviously knows that it's you.
it's you. Yeah.
And apparently it comes off as kind of cringy and desperate,
Yeah,
liking your own post, which was my what I thought initially, but it was good to
I have it
have
confirmed
our
by now.
AI overlords. Yeah, exactly. Confirm that.
Yes, yes. No, I was thinking the same thing. Well, and then this is, but this is so. This is more technology. Social. I was, social media reels. I mean, that's you're filming all of your sets, and when you're saying you want to get
Mhm.
stuff up, that's you're getting stuff up of you, like performing at Comedy Centre, performing at other things to try and attract more people to your shows via the social media. Is what you're
Yeah,
trying.
well, there have been. I've come across comedians on social media and gone to their shows because I just really liked their stuff on
Oh,
social
really?
media,
Okay.
and I've started, and I think that's the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
Um, if you're not already kind of famous,
Yeah.
how do you break through and get people to come to your shows? And
Mm.
so two comics come to mind. I saw Jeff Arcuri
Hmm.
um, at the London Palladium recently. Fantastic
Mm.
US comic, 3.5 million subscribers on followers on Instagram.
Okay.
Really great guy, and he's got amazing clips from like his time at the Comedy Cellar and
Right.
stuff.
Right.
But I wouldn't have known about him were it not for the clips online. And the same with Eric Rushton in the
Mm.
UK, who I don't know if you know Eric, but
No.
he's a brilliant comedian. He's a real
Mm.
kind of comedian's comedian.
Uh-huh.
And I had no idea about him
Oh, wow.
until I came across the clips, and then I saw his last show in Aberystwyth,
Mm.
yeah, I've met him a few times in person. Now I bumped into him in Brighton,
Wow.
enough. But yeah, and it's and I'll probably now go and see his show every year in Edinburgh
Wow.
now
Wow.
because I just like his stuff. But were it not for um, a friend resharing something on Instagram, I probably would never have watched that first clip and
Hmm.
wouldn't have known that he exists. He's a Birmingham-based comic, so he's not in
Mm.
London
Mm.
loads. Um, but I think that's how you start to get the word out about kind of who you are and what you're doing. And I think for your stuff especially, I mean, you're so tech uh, capable. I think that's going to bring in a big techie audience. Like I could see that really working for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So Philip Reese, who was on the podcast recently, he was talking about how he's now cutting up his stuff every week and putting it out on 4 different platforms. Since then, that's like 2 3 weeks. I mean, I basically been posting clips of myself on TikTok every
Mhm.
day since then, and I've become a bit obsessed with that. And I guess the interesting question there is about, I mean, because I think the received wisdom in the past was, oh, don't put your material on. Like I think this is back, back in the day. Oh, like don't. That you're burning stuff. You can't use it again. But I think we're in this new world, aren't we? Where just because it's on social media doesn't mean you can't tell the same joke on stage. But
Yeah, I mean,
oh, go on.
I no, I think I'm preempting your question here, but you're gonna, yeah. I mean, the way I think about it is, so right now, most of the stuff I put on social media is crowd work stuff and
Right.
audience engagement stuff.
Yes. Yes.
I have the joy of running a gig in what can be quite a heckly pub.
Right.
So it so often goes wrong for me. on
Yeah.
stage, and I get to sit in the flop of that, and it's led itself to a lot of quite funny content, I think.
Great. Yeah.
So I've been lucky in that, yeah, I don't have to kind of burn any material.
Right.
But I also just think that's the wrong way of looking at comedy.
Mm.
I think comedy has changed. I think comics now have to produce things way more quickly. I think gone are the days of having your club 20 that you can do for 10
Do
years.
10 years, right?
The world is changing too fast. Tastes are changing too fast.
Hmm.
So there is this demand to put lots and lots of stuff on social media. So a lot of comics are gonna have to kind of burn more material. And also, you've got the likes of Josh Johnson, who's releasing a special every week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, he's incredible.
This
He's
what
so
an hour
prolific.
special every week?
Not always as much as an hour, but pretty much always over 20 minutes. And he'll do it on topical stuff. And he's a correspondent on the Daily Show in the States, right?
Okay.
So, but if you haven't come across his stuff, I highly
Oh,
recommend
wow.
him. Yeah, one of my favorite comedians right now.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's the new way. There was a great
Yeah.
article in the New York Times about him, but I think it was last year he released 22 hours of stand-up content.
Wow. And this was, would you say, I mean, you obviously haven't watched all of it, but the caliber, you would say he's managing to produce something
It's
of
good. It's really
wow,
good.
amazing. Yeah. I mean, the so I'm I guess that the interesting thing well, I don't have good quality control, I would say. Like in my life, I tend to be like there's some people my partner is she's the absolute opposite. She's a perfectionist. It needs to be just so before it can be, presented. She designs jewelry and stuff. Whereas I tend to just dump stuff out. So like at the moment, I'm kind of going through my back catalogue of, basically I do a completely new 10 minutes every week at sunset
Mm, mm,
of new material. And I mean, during the course of it, like, I do virtual reality comedy and I effectively do a new half hour of material 3 times a week. So I'm
mm,
kind of all in for this. I mean, like if I thought that I would get any value from releasing those things verbatim, I probably would. I don't think they'd be anywhere near the quality of, but I just love doing new stuff. And so what I'm
mm,
doing at the moment is I'm going back through the ones of the live shows and I'm trying to pick out the ones where they got a laugh that
mm,
were, and so, but it's an interesting question about that, I'm sort of treating TikTok as a place to dump all the things to see if some of them get enough likes that is kind of giving me some more information. Okay, that's got a bit more legs, but I wonder if it will come back to bite me that like, okay, I end up with, because like basically if I carry on like this, in 3 years I'll have 1,000 videos of whatever. Like and like maybe 10 of them are like ones, but will I then get judged by the 990 things which were so? I don't know if that.
I was reading a really interesting thing from James Clear recently, where he was talking about how in certain fields, um, you're very much judged on your successes, and
Mm,
your failures almost don't matter at all. And then there are other fields where it's completely the opposite, where
mm, mm,
you can be good all of the time, but one downfall and the whole thing falls apart.
mm.
And like starting a business is very much like the first one, right? It doesn't matter how many failed businesses you've had,
Right.
the one really successful business,
And you're remembered for that one. You're not
and you're
remembered for
remembered for
the.
that one, and nobody cares about all the failures. I think stand up is kind of like that first category. And then like on the other side you've got like criminal offenses, right? If you're a good citizen like 99% of the time, but
Right, 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 right.
that one time you murder someone, that's
That kind of, they hold that against you.
that's the bit everyone remembers, how
Oh, that
unreasonable.
just reminds me of this wonderful thing. It's like this guy. I'd have to tell you this. This is a sort of a street joke. But sorry, you made me think of it, which is this. There's a guy goes into a pub and there's old guy going, "Arr, arr," he's grumbling, and over here he's grumbling. So, look out there, see all those dry stone walls, all those dry stone walls I built miles and miles. Do they call me Dry Stone Jack? Do they? Oh. And then it's like you're grumbling, grumbling, drink more pints. And you see out there, see all those I planted all those trees, I planted all those
Yeah.
trees. Do they call me Tree Planter Jack? Do they? But you fuck one goat.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it? Sorry, you probably heard it before. I just,
No, yeah, but it's still funny. It's still funny. Um, but yeah, no, that's exactly it. But
Right.
I think well, remember, you can always take stuff off social media you're not proud of. So
I guess that's true,
I
actually, isn't
think
it?
once you break through, um, and you've kind of like you've got a thing that people have seen and they like. If they come to see you and they don't have the best of times, they might not come back.
Sure.
But hopefully, I guess that the dream in stand-up is like by the time you reach that point, you've kind of you've worked out so much about your acts that you could produce another hour
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever it is of
I'm
great
totally not
comedy.
worried about burning material so much in at least in our context.
Mm,
It feels like, well, I feel a bounty of ideas, at least
hmm
for me personally. I just I'm always thinking of things, not saying that all of them are of that quality, but I have faith in my ability to keep coming up with new things. What I'm trying to work out is that process of how does one isolate the quality ones, which is just to lead back to you because of the dangers I talk about myself the entire time. But
No,
the
that's all right.
well, it's my podcast.
It's nice having a conversation
Yeah,
like this, I
but
think.
but I am very interested in like you're kind of into everybody writes down ideas, but
Mhm.
am I right in saying that when you go on stage, you've kind of scripted to an extent what you're going
Oh,
to say?
yeah, for the material, massively.
And
Yeah,
that means
massively.
moving words around and getting the ordering of and the timings and so on.
Yeah, and Twitch. I'm doing more longer form stuff, so it's not quite as Jake to Jake anymore, and so the structure of it really matters. But
hmm,
playing around with how you set things up and the different twists and turns you can put things in is yeah is kind of my bread and butter right now. That's the thing I'm
hmm,
trying to work out and try to do more effectively. So I've got kind of
hmm.
coherent chunks that kind of slot in, so to speak.
Right, right. Yeah, which I think is and that seems to be almost like the traditional approach.
Mm,
And like there's, Bloom's book and like I think we were talking to Dan Morris on the last week on the podcast, and I think he's, you know, and it's I I mean I spent 9 months with a kind of like, a 10-minute set that, evolved and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I've swung back the other way now that I almost don't want to have a plan. Like I just want to have bullet points and I will just launch in. I'll just like throw myself.
mm.
But that's, yeah, I don't know. Maybe at some point I will sicken of that and I will swing back the other direction towards crafting the material. Just so, as I've said many times, I feel like the trick to stand up is being completely relaxed on stage.
Mm,
And of the many ways that you might achieve that, two, that, one is that you are just in free fall and you really don't care what happens. And that's funny and engaging by itself. And the other one is that I think Mariah Bowden was saying, so well what you're going to say that it's not even, it's almost like you're driving a car, right? You
mm,
can carry on having a conversation with your passenger in the car because you are almost doing the driving unconsciously. And I guess for some stand-ups, their material, they know it so well, they can just deliver it, and then they're kind of like, and this is what Mariah was describing a couple of weeks ago. She's, the material is kind of going along, and she's there having a sort of a higher level thought process, thinking, oh, well, maybe I should, put a bit there, or oh, I've just thought of a tag, or well, what's your experience when you're on stage and in the moment? What's happening in your brain?
I'll be honest, I get bored of that. I get bored of doing the same things night
Okay,
after night. I'm constantly changing the material. It might be the same chunk. I
right.
might still be doing a bit about a very boring conversation I had at a house party, which is
Yeah,
like a new,
whatever is the theme. Yeah.
but it's expanding and I'm adding things and I'm tweaking things all of the time
Okay.
because I can't do it too many times in a row without uh, yeah, losing interest in it. And
Agreed. Agreed.
I think that's a good thing because then you ask the question, well, how do I make this more interesting, or what is more interesting than this
Right.
to talk
Right.
about? And so inevitably you end up kind of putting things out and replacing things with more interesting stuff. And I think that's how you
Mm,
grow as a comic. I think
mm, mm.
I think particularly like early on, like it's a quantity game. You've got to do a lot of the stuff to figure out like what are the ways in which people repeatedly find me funny.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. No, I agree. I agree with that completely. I think you got to try out lots of things. I guess it's just interesting for I see these two, perhaps they're stereotypes of like, so I think maybe yourself, possibly Philip. you'll, watch yourself back. I mean, I presume I mean, do you have any problem with watching yourself back? Do you enjoy watching yourself back or listening back to yourself?
Um, I've never really had a problem with
Yeah.
it per se. It's I think it's useful to film everything because yeah, you don't know when there are going to be some of those great
Yeah, absolutely.
improvised off the cuff moments that you can then use
Yeah.
for reels and that sort of thing. But yeah, and I'm just watching back to see how I can make things better. And different audiences do react differently to
Right,
things,
right.
and I think as a comic, you need to really understand why that was. Is it a different demographic in the room? Was there another
Mm,
comic who came on earlier who was quite similar?
sure.
And yeah, I think it's you just got to be aware of all of these things. And I think the quicker you build up that awareness, the quicker you become able to just deal with anything
Yes,
and get them laughing, which I think is what we're all trying to do as comics.
absolutely, absolutely. I guess the thing that I have gone from over the last year and a half is gone from, okay, here's my script for my act, which I'm tinkering with, like yourself. Um, and I've gone to like now I've got things that I'll say and then I'll watch it back, but I will not consciously think about how to rearrange it. Like I've almost found that the sort of sitting down and kind of trying to think, oh, I should move this bit here, like the sort of really conscious cognitive process of manipulating it is something that kind of it frustrates me because, like I was saying with like the stage memory, is having made a decision to try and put something wherever, I'm then going up on stage and putting myself under a lot of pressure that I've now got to do it in this other way, and rightly or wrongly now I'm kind of saying, look, I'm just going to watch myself back and sort of take it in subconsciously and then go back up on stage and kind of outsource the like whatever changes are going to happen. I'm going to let my subconscious do that,
Hmm. Hmm.
assuming that it's actually probably more powerful than my ability to sort of like consciously
Hmm.
manipulate the things, and hope that I get better. Is the approach that I'm taking at the moment. We'll see how long that lasts, but yeah, it's but you because I just remember at the last show I came to yours and you were sort of like you went out to sort of prepare and sort of almost like I must remember to say these things in this order and so on
Mm.
was important to you for the practicing for the show. But I'm just fascinated by all the different approaches. I'm not saying one is right or
Mhm.
wrong. Yeah, yeah, interesting stuff. But so well, I mean, we're having so much fun. At least I'm having so much fun. I don't know about you. I mean, I can never tell.
I'm having fun. I'm
Oh,
having
yay!
fun.
But so we've talked about technology. As I was saying recently, the comedy origin story question always brings up, and you've mentioned lots of people who've had a big influence, lots of names. Is there anybody else that should be included in the story of Anthony Heston about?
Oh, absolutely. Uh, I've got to mention my childhood table tennis coach.
Oh, really?
Yes, I played competitive table tennis growing up.
Mm.
I wanted to be a competitive table tennis player. I spent, yeah, training like 5 times a week,
Oh,
going to
wow.
tournaments all over the place. But I met him when I was 11 years old, 12 years
Mm.
old. Yeah, I think it was about 12 when I started playing table tennis. And
Hmm.
he was just a great mentor to me when I was younger and somebody who really helped me realize that um, if I put my mind to things, I can do things and I
Oh,
can
brilliant.
achieve things. And the accent I have masks this well, but I'm from a fairly kind of working class family
Oh, really?
in West London, and he was from a pretty poor family as well. Spent time in care, and he kind of gave me uh, this story of just remember, Anthony, of you're trying to do all these things in life with far fewer resources than
Mm.
many of when you go to university and that sort of thing. There are going to be people that had a lot more help along the
Mm.
way, and just remember that what you've achieved with what you've had, and that's all. I've always kind of had this scrappiness in me,
Right.
to kind of yeah, just
Yeah.
remembering that you kind of your origins are not do not define you. It's how you apply yourself. It's how you uh, it's how you kind of make that make the best of the opportunities that are given to you. But
Right.
and I think that was a really kind of positive message, and that carried me through a lot of the things I did
Wonderful.
in my 20s. And yeah, he had a big impact on me. Great guy.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, I mean that's well, thanks so much for sharing that. And it's I do get this sense, you're from my perspective, a younger guy. You're relatively, new into stand up, but I do sense a business like you're getting it done. I get
Oh,
you are coming across as not intimidated by the thing. You're like, here's the thing that I love doing, and there are, the way that you're approaching the Brighton Fringe, the Edinburgh Fringe, going out to Chicago and so on. It's kind of like here's a can-do guy who's got confidence in himself and in having fun and going for it. Is that how you feel on the inside as well? You're doing a
yeah,
great.
yeah. I mean, why not? Why?
Sure.
Well, who's to say I can't do all. I mean, yeah,
Oh, well,
it's.
absolutely.
Look, I mean, whether this is going to be a commercial success, I
Hmm,
don't as a thing, I don't know, but yeah, I think life is a thing to be lived, and you've got
sure.
to. No one's going to do it for you. You've got to go out there and do it yourself, and yeah, I'm just excited by that, and yeah,
Well,
I try not to get in
yeah.
my own way too much.
Yeah, well, that sounds excellent. Yeah, I mean, I say it partly because I noticed with myself, my fame libido is perhaps a bit stronger than it should. I've got all sorts of libidos, but I'm kind of like I want, I want to be playing to, I want to be making larger and larger, in particular, packed out rooms of people
Yeah,
laughing.
yeah.
And where I'm at the moment, I still have, certain constraints with family and so on. I'm
Mm.
envious of. I think you're perhaps less constrained than I am. I mean, it's great to see your confidence and absolutely you're a very talented young man, and you should have that confidence.
Oh, I
And
appreciate that.
the world will fall at your feet. It's I mean, or I think again, part of
I
it
hope your
is.
family don't listen to this podcast.
Well, they get. I mean, it's interesting actually because I just well, aside, I spent the weekend at a generative AI hackathon, right, where I
Mm.
built an app that basically allowed me to take a video of me doing stand up and getting a laugh, again, documented case of me getting a laugh, and I could take an audio clip of a different joke, and using AI generative lip syncing, I could basically have
Wow.
me telling a different joke and but then appearing to get the laugh. And
Mm.
I was just, like I'd made this little demo and I was just sort of showing it to my family. And my twin sons were like, they're like, oh no, it's that. So they run away. They're kind of like, although they do say they've occasionally heard they say that they much prefer my podcast voice to my stand-up comedy voice. But
Interesting.
yeah,
Mm.
sorry, clear aside there. More technology, no drugs, but people, yes, is yeah. I think it's the lucky few. I mean, like talent, hard
Mm.
work, absolutely prerequisites. And then bags of luck. Who's going to
Mm.
get
100%.
escalated to But I think that there's lots of people, or there's a fair number of people who are able to do comedy and not that's necessarily their full-time job, or they're able to do large amounts of comedy and not be massively out of pocket and have a lot of fun doing it. And actually, for me, like just being able to have regular, I think as you said at the beginning about running your own gig, I find having my own gig hugely
Yeah,
valuable in terms of you've got a
100%.
regular stage time. I guess my fear is something that someone's mentioned is that there's the danger that you become sort of stuck in, okay, this is my safe space and I'm doing the comedy that works here, but nowhere. I mean, which clearly you're going out. I mean, I'm trying to do it myself, going out to festivals, going out to Chicago and so on. I think you're not gonna struggle with that, but it's yeah, it's I
I
love
think
what you're doing.
if it's the only thing you do, then I think there's a risk of that. But
Yeah,
if it's part of a mix, then
yeah,
I think it's only a positive. If you're doing other stuff and you don't get stuck in an echo chamber, it's only a positive.
yeah.
Because I think having that space, like I really enjoy running my night because I have a lot of regulars and
Yeah.
they do come back and
Mm, mm.
which means I can't do the same material each time,
Yes.
which forces me to write um new stuff, and I found that really helpful.
Yes.
It's given me more impetus to write more stuff and to keep being creative. So yeah, and you've run a great gig. I always
Oh,
have a great time when I come to your
it's well,
gigs.
and I think you're there tomorrow, in fact, aren't you? You're
I am,
yeah, looking forward to it.
yeah.
Brilliant. Yes. No, and then what you were just saying there about it forces you to write more of your own material. Dan Morris, who was on the podcast last week, who he's got a great gig in Kenton,
Mm.
which maybe he'll grab you for.
I have done that once before, yeah.
There you go. Right, brilliant. Yes.
Frosties, yeah.
Yeah, Frosties. is I think he said exactly the same thing, which is, you because you're replaying the same room. But yes, it's I mean I've got at the moment I've got like, you know compared to when I started and I was doing, I would do like 50 different gigs in a row and maybe
Hmm.
not repeat the same one over again. So lots and lots of different things. Now with the regular night, and then there's a couple of other regular ones that I do, like your own one and cuts.
Hmm.
And then I'm doing
Hmm.
3 nights a week in VR comedy. And I think for me, but I'm doing like these half-hour things. And I what I worry is that, how self-indulgent am I being? Do you know what I mean? Like when I get up on stage at the start of the second half, emceeing at sunset, and I do, 8 minutes of like completely random stuff, and sometimes it can go really well, and it will just it's a real random mixed bag, and I'm kind of like I'm caught in the, well, I organize this gig, I do this gig, I want to do new things, I want to experiment. Am I taking the piss? And I guess so far it's
You're not taking the piss if you run a gig, and actually I have stolen your format where I do the new stuff right up top in the second half,
yeah, right.
and I think that's the place for the new material.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
the audience, they've had a fun first half.
yes,
They get what the show's about. Everyone's had the break. Everybody's favorite act.
yeah.
And then you come on and you try some new stuff. I think that's the perfect place for it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm glad we agree on that. I think it's a good format. I mean, just Callum McKenzie, who came on the podcast, and I screwed up
Mhm.
the recording, and maybe one day we'll get to re-record it. But so you know
I
Callum,
know, yeah, yeah.
yeah, who's a
I know
great
well.
MC, although he's focusing on his, not so much on that at the moment. But I notice when he does MCing, he like pretty much every little excursion into the audience or whatever, he's got a planned joke that it
Mhm.
then lands on.
Mhm.
And sometimes I don't know how you feel when you're emceeing. You're like I kind of like I don't want to pressure myself to land on particular jokes. I just want to play in the space and try and have
Yeah.
fun. And if it doesn't come to a joke, it doesn't come to a joke. I guess some people might say, if you're being a good MC, you're not going anywhere unless you shouldn't be bringing anything up unless you have a really strong joke to land on. I don't know how you feel about that as an idea.
Um, I mean, kudos to those MCs that have that much material that
Right.
they can do that. I certainly don't do that myself. But the thing is, I think when interactions go badly,
Yeah.
you can make that the joke. Like
Yes.
I
Yes.
improvised a line recently, whereas having a chat with a woman in the audience, and she was just not interested, and I was just like,
Right.
oof, the chemistry here is so much, and so I quite enjoy playing the flop. To be honest, I think there's a lot in that. I think as a comic, you're always trying to get to a laugh, but
Sure.
I don't think switching into material as a backup is always the best way of doing that, because quite often it comes across as contrived, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you sort of had that in your back pocket
Mm,
anyway. So yeah, I don't like the constraint of only talking to them because you have something set up,
right. Yeah.
right? Um,
Yes, I,
but
I think it's if we can, if we can be like more like children and just sort of play in the pool. But I mean, you're giving up so much of your time. We've chatted about. I guess I'm tempted to move on to the last couple of questions.
mhm.
And move towards wrapping up. But have drugs and affected your perception of reality? And when we say drugs, I mean that could be any kind of substance, legal, illegal, otherwise. Could be port, could be fine cheese, could be anti-anxiety medication. Do these the substances have any factor? Caffeine, alcohol, anything at all in your life?
I, I had 3 cups of tea today,
Oh
which
yeah.
is one more than I'm used to.
Okay.
So
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 you're
if
like
I'm
super
if I
hyper.
seem more awake than usual, that's fine. Um, I I mean I experimented with drugs when I was at university. I think I found out pretty quickly that, like, I'm biologically not very cool. Like I
Mhm. Or
can't
or it's
I
just not for
can't
you. Yeah.
handle, yeah, it's not to say that I didn't enjoy the highs, but it was the kind of aftermath of should we say it, like party drugs
Sure, sure,
that
sure.
was that it
Yeah.
just didn't agree with me, and
No,
and so I haven't taken drugs for a long time, to be honest.
no.
The fun illegal ones, of course, caffeine and things like that, of course, I enjoy.
And
But
alcohol, caffeine and alcohol.
I don't drink, actually.
No, okay,
I
same
I
same
I
here.
quit 2 years ago, and it's
At the
been,
same time
yeah,
you
I just
started comedy.
haven't. Part way through, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I guess it would have aligned kind of
Yeah. Well,
around
that was the
then. But
same for me. I mean, the first two or three gigs, I got horrendously drunk afterwards, not such a high, but I was like, if I carry on doing comedy and alcohol together, I will kill myself. So
yeah,
it was let's,
wise.
yeah, yeah. It's, I mean, for me, like, I mean, I give out caffeine as well, or at least caffeinated coffee. Um,
Mhm.
Stand-up comedy seems to be the most well. I'm currently addicted to stand-up comedy and social likes on social media. I'm just
Yeah. Oh God,
so
I'm dealing with that as well. Because you put the reel out and you want to see how people have responded to it. And I hate myself for looking because I'm just like this does not matter. Like my
mm,
checking
mm,
this
mm,
has no bearing
hmm.
on whether the reel does well or poorly. And I just feel like such an idiot because I'm just like this is just wasted time where do you know what? This is one of the great things I got from journaling. I was
Oh yeah,
because we've been doing the sort of the shows in Brighton. We had a I think I had my best gig ever, and then I was back on the 10:30 train
train.
back into
Yeah.
London, and it was a great gig. And I was journaling and about how the gig had gone,
Mm.
and I realised that whether the gig goes well or the gig goes badly, the implication is the same. You carry on working on the material.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You find ways of making the jokes stronger. That's for me. That's the joy of it. Like I like making people laugh, but I like making people laugh in new ways, and the pursuing that kind of creatively is yeah, it's kind of why I'm doing this.
Yeah, no, it is. It's well, it's interesting, Nick, because it feels like you've got a bit more of the kind of the process of evolving the material outside of the gig is the whereas I'm kind of trying to find the spaces where I can be evolving the material on stage.
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
and part it's almost a little bit that the admin of gigs and festival shows and so on. And a full-time job and a family and so on. I feel like I don't have long periods to spend evolving the material.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, let's wrap up with our final question, which is, what does it all mean? The life, the universe, and everything. Any thoughts on that subject?
My only thought on it is that it's probably a good sign if you're not thinking about it too often. It's an
Uh,
important question to ask periodically
right.
to sort of ground yourself and bring yourself back to the thing that is important. But
Hmm.
yeah, the times when things are kind of going well in life, I'm trying I'm not asking that question
No,
too
no.
much. Although I'm having big thoughts about yeah, what am I doing in comedy? What because I love stand up, but there's there are other forms of comedy too. I love sketch. I love SNL.
Right.
I wrote a bunch of sketches for uh, BBC Radio 4's DMs are open.
Hmm.
None of which were accepted,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I sent them to a new kind of sketch night recently, and they've said that they want to produce
Oh,
one.
great.
So one of them's going to get to see the light of day.
Ooh.
But and I obviously do all the sitcom stuff with my improv group, and
Yeah, great.
I love sitcoms. I love the format. I love the
Mm.
characters in
Mm.
sitcoms, and then I'm kind of thinking about well, like what else? What other kind of forms of comedic writing um, could I do? Appreciate that's not really an answer to your question,
I
but
mean, there's a lot of meaning invested in there. I mean, I mean, you mentioned, a strict Catholic school. I just wondered if does that leave you with a particular like view of the nature of the universe, or we're just specks floating in the infinite void, or
do you know what? This is going to sound really silly, but the whole time I was at primary school, I was kind of expecting them to tell us at the end of it that like a load of it was made up.
right, a bit like
And
Father
that
Christmas. Yeah.
sort of, yeah, Father Christmas, the Tooth Fairy. We had those
Mm,
kind of
mm.
ideas that were sort of put there just to teach us sort of like, good lessons and spread joy and that sort of thing. And that never happened. And I was a little surprised by that. So I was an atheist quite young. I think I was about
Right.
12 when I sort of finally came out as an
Uh-huh.
atheist.
Uh-huh.
My mum's response to which was to take me to church. But so yeah, I don't. No, I don't believe in a God. I don't believe in that stuff. But
No, and you're
uh,
making your own meaning is about, making people laugh and coming up with
yeah,
different comedic styles and so on. That's
yeah.
really, really enough.
I think human beings are meaning making machines. I think we got to
Yeah.
find our own. We got to find our own meaning in this
Right.
cosmic mess. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Well, yes. Yeah, I could agree hardly. I was going to say we have to do it. I guess some people end up taking their meaning from others around them, which is, it's, each to their own.
That's culture, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
that's okay. I think,
yeah. It's
so long as
that.
it's not people exploiting other
Yeah,
people. You know what I mean? That's
I
perhaps a chat for another day.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think we've probably run out of road. It's I think we've come to the time for to promote your things. I think we've mentioned some of them already. You've got. Do we just want to like list out the places where people can see you? We'll get the links in the show notes.
for
But
sure. I think the easiest place to find me is just at Anthony Heston Comedy on Instagram. That links to pretty much everything else. And
yeah,
then yeah, the link tree in my bio links to other shows that I'm doing. I can't remember the date of the show, but it is sometime in July.
yeah.
Um, in Southwark, it will be the next time we do 10 things you shouldn't do. So
Mm.
yeah, definitely come if if people want to
Well,
come by
yeah. Or
for
even if they
that.
don't want to, they should maybe like re-listen to this podcast on repeat until they want to. And
If you can convince them of that, Sam, I'm go
yeah,
for it, my
I'll
friend.
see what I
Go
can do.
for it. It'd
I'll,
be massively appreciated. But yeah,
whatever.
that's probably the best place to find me um, online.
Brilliant. We'll get that link in there, and we'll get the dates in and everything else. And well, it's been great talking to Anthony Heston. We're going to give him the last word in the moment, momentarily after I say thanks everyone for listening. And remember, you can help support comedians on technology, people, and drugs by going to patreon.com/comedians on, where any level of support will help us continue to produce this show. I don't think anybody's given us any support, but you could be the first. Or I know it's a cost of living crisis. Follow us on Facebook, and we'll speak to you all again soon. Last word to the guest, Anthony Heston.
I think I'm going to go with improv. I think I'd like to see more improv on the comedy scene. I think it's seen as a bit of a dirty word, and it shouldn't be. It's a great tool. So that's yeah. Last word from me. Improv.